I'd like to welcome you to WCPT AM's Out Chicago. Think of us as Sunday brunch with your gay best friends. Now please welcome your host, Scott Duff.
And welcome to Out Chicago. I'm Ellen Miller. Happy Easter to all who celebrate. This year, both Greek Easter and the other Easter are on the same day.
Break out the red eggs.
That voice is Kathy Voltmer. She's sitting in the co-host chair today. Scott is got the day off, Easter weekend. But with us is Kathy Voltmer. We'll talk to Kathy in a moment. She is a 30-year radio broadcasting legend here in Chicago, doing the news on several different stations. And she also happens to be my wife. But as I said, Scott's out of town this Easter weekend. But have no fear. Kathy is here, and we are going to have a great show. We are going to chat with Second City's Kat McDonnell and Second City alum Claudia Martinez. They'll tell us about their latest project. We'll also be joined by Charlie Okerlund from the Logan Square Arts Foundation. We're going to discuss the organization's recent evolution and some of their exciting upcoming events. Then in the second hour, our friend and longtime Out Chicago and WCPT supporter, who's added playwright to his resume, Shimmy Braun, will be joining us from London. From jolly old London, where his new play, Figala, and I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. We'll ask Shimmy when we get him on here. It's opening in the West End, the legendary West End. And then we'll have members of the band Vintage Blonde Chicago. Kim Swinton and Linda Martin will be in studio to talk about their upcoming album release party. It's a jam-packed Easter Sunday extravaganza, and I hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome, Kathy Voltmer.
Thank you, my dear. I'm so happy to be here. I'm usually at home doing chores around the house and chopping vegetables for some kind of preparation. So I'm happy to have a little break from that.
Well, your immeasurable talents need to be utilized. And since Scott's out of town and I'm sitting in his seat, I thought no one better than you, Kathy Voltmer. Tell our listeners a little bit about what your radio history and background's about.
About a 30-year history in Chicago radio. I started at B96 in the 80s when they were still playing hot hits, Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson and musicians like that. And then my journey took me to a number of places, including WXRT, where we met in the mid-90s. And then The Drive in the 2000s. I was there for 15 years as a co-host of the morning show with Steve Downs, now of Master Chief, the Halo game fame. Shout out to Steve, because I know he's a listener with his lovely wife, Lizzie. Mm-hmm. And then in 2016, I left radio behind and joined you on your real estate journey.
Yes, Kathy and I worked together in real estate. Now we're working together on the show.
It's always great to be here because, like I say, I'm a big fan. I'm a big listener. I'm so proud of what you and Scott have accomplished over the past 12 years. You've really become leaders in the community. And yeah, it's just a standout show, and I'm a fan, and so it's an even greater privilege to be here and help you co-host.
Well, I feel the same way about having you by my side. Maybe you can learn an instrument and work in my third occupation, which is the Nelson Street Revival Band.
I'm a super happy audience member.
I know you are.
Super happy audience member.
Well, it's great to have you. Kathy and I last night had the great pleasure of going to a fundraiser for Sarah Feigenholtz. Sarah is our state senator. She is a longtime supporter and ally of LGBTQ plus rights. I've gotten to know her quite well in recent months. We had her on the show last Sunday, and it was a lovely event at Sidetrack. Sidetrack, always a great place to go.
We haven't been there in years.
Yeah,
we were there for, actually, Shimmy Braun, one of our guests later in the show, had an event there not too long ago. But I used to go there all the time. You know, didn't we all used to go there all the time back in the day? It's a force in the community and still a very, very fun place to go.
Yeah, Art and Pep were there, the owners. They have done so much for our community. You know, Sidetrack, one of the many things, but they've been involved in all the important things that go on in Chicago. They've been at the forefront, and our hats go off to them. And they got a nice accolades. Well, you know, Sarah gave them some nice accolades from the stage. But a lot of we have a lot of gay alders that were there.
Gay alders and supporters.
And supporters and allies, yeah.
Matt Martin was there. And we met, who was the alderman we went? Angela Clay. And then
46.
Maureen Martino from the
Lakeview East Chamber, when a good friend of ours, and she always books Nelson Street Revival. She's a fan of our band, and I've known Maureen for years, and it was great to see her there. She's a pillar in the community.
Precious Brady Davis was the MC.
She was the MC. She did a lovely job of talking about Sarah. There was a special moment. Apparently, Sarah wore a dress to, I think, an HRC event. And Precious I've got to have that dress. I've got to have that dress. And leave it to Sarah. She brought a big bag to the stage, and after Precious was finished with her opening remarks, presented that beautiful blue dress to Precious on stage.
I love it.
It's very special.
I love it. Precious was the MC of the event, and she's a commissioner at the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District. She also works with the Center on Halstead. She's an author, transgender author, climate change proponent, big activist in our community. And she wrote that book. Well, you had her on, I think, to discuss the book.
We've had her on a couple times.
It's called I Have Always Been Me. It's a great book, so it's pick that up if you can.
Yeah, I think she said she was the very first transgender person elected into state office here in Illinois. So she's a trailblazer for sure, and a real force of nature. But yeah, Sarah was up there talking about her commitment to the community, which she's been a part of since the 80s, when AIDS was ravishing so many of our great young men, and how she was going to funerals like so many of us on a weekly basis. And she's just been just an amazing, ally, as I said, to our community, and she really puts it all out there. I mean, we had her on the show last week, and you know, to listen to her, her heart is in serving the people of her district here in Chicago.
The people of her district, and in serving us. I mean, for decades, she's been a big backer of the LGBTQ plus community. It's been such a heartbreaking time, and we see so many politicians who are just turning their backs on us, it feels like, and just kind of folding to the agenda, the Trump agenda, or just going along with it. And it does your heart good to go to an event like this and to see some people on the local level, on the state level, who really have our backs. I mean, the Sarahs of the world, Angela Clays of the world, the Matt Martins of the world, Tom Tunney was there, former alderman. Between them and between Governor Pritzker, you really feel like we are in one of the safe spaces in the country right now.
They pointed out that Illinois is the place to be, and I can't argue with them. I mean, we're looking around at this regime that has formed in place of democracy, and we see that Governor Pritzker and the Sarah Feigenholzes of the world are just fighting to keep us safe and keep our rights intact.
And they're not afraid to speak truth to power.
No. And healthcare. We met people from healthcare. We talked to a guy named Don. I forget Don's last name, but he worked on Mayor Burns' reelection campaign, and he now works with retirement homes. And he said the funding is just the cutting of federal funding is just horrendous.
Yeah, Medicaid is a big chunk of their business, and so consequently, the cutting of Medicaid is also going to devastate the retirement community.
Yeah. So everybody was there. They have a cause, and they are there united to make sure people like Sarah, continue her efforts on our behalf.
Yeah, you feel a little hope when you go to something like that, because it's easy to lose hope. But when you see what's going around, the hostility against our trans brothers and sisters, the hostility against gay marriage that's growing throughout the country, which is totally counter, honestly, to the way Americans feel. The latest surveys show about 70% of Americans support same-sex marriage, but the attacks still come from the federal government.
Yeah, and one of the points I think that Precious had made to our friend Don was that, they're going for the T, and after the T, they'll be going for the G. We know we have a president that likes to continually feed red meat to his base. And the transgender community in this country has been, sadly, what he has used to instill fear in people, particularly in swing states, as I've talked about before. Elon Musk spent millions and millions of dollars to run an anti-trans ad in swing states over 30,000 times. And he's all about fear. He's all about, doesn't mind whose backs he stands on, who doesn't mind, who he hurts, the cruelty that comes out of it, as long as he feels that he is feeding his base their fear and making him look like he's going to save them from the likes of transgender people.
It seems like every week there's a number of headlines. I mean, almost every day there's a number of headlines that can strike fear into our hearts. One of our leading headlines this past week has been the Department of Justice filing a lawsuit against Maine over the state's refusal to comply with the president's ban on transgender students participating in school sports. Another politician who's been in our corner, Maine Governor Janet Mills, is being specifically targeted here because she's had the courage to stand up to Trump.
Yep, she stood up.
The issue is Title IX, that bans discrimination on the basis of sex in education. And Democrats say that should mean that trans students should be allowed to participate in school sports as their gender. Banning them from school sports because of the sex assigned at birth is denying them an equal education because of the reasons prohibited by Title IX. But the Trump administration says trans girls do not face discrimination on the basis of sex if they're banned from participating in sports with others of their gender. All Trump can do is lie about trans people and say, these trans girls have I guess what would it be, advantages in sports, and it would be unfair for them to compete against cis women. We know that this stuff is crazy. But the Trump administration keeps doubling down. And then Governor Mills, in a meeting about this, spoke out against Trump and said, basically, we'll see you in court.
Right. And boy, here they go.
Yeah. And then this administration is so cruel because 2 federal departments have now cut unrelated grants to Maine for low-income kids' food and for prisons in efforts to get the state to cave on the issue. It's like, the mob here. And Maine has sued the Department of Agriculture for withholding the grants for kids' food. I mean, there's a number of things. It's like a domino effect here. A federal judge has ruled that the Trump administration violated federal law by freezing the food funding, but then now the DOJ comes back and sues the state. So it's just a huge mess, and it really breaks your heart. But you got to give props to the governor for standing up for us. I don't know how it's going to end up turning out.
Yeah, she has stood up, and apparently, from what I understand, there's 2 trans athletes in the entire state.
I know.
This is what is everything that's wrong with what's going on from our administration right now. They are just focusing on hate and cruelty when there are so many other things that they could be working on. Poverty. We've got an Elon Musk who's a zillionaire who's out, having as many babies as he can. I read last night he wants to have as many as he can because he's worried for the apocalypse, or I don't know, some sort of nonsense. But the guy is, obviously he's on another planet mentally, and I know he wants to go to one.
Mars.
We'd like him to go. We'd like to see him go to Mars sooner than later. But it's just, I know that people are frustrated. People are sad. People are, because we internalize this stuff. How can you not? You've got a man sitting in an El Salvadorian jail right now who apparently was a mistake, and now, of course, they're backtracking and saying, no, he's part of the M13 gang.
They're making up all these lies.
They're making up lies.
Justify what they've done.
But, what we want to do today on Easter Sunday, as much as possible, is shine a light on happy, positive things, because this is Easter. This is the time of rebirth, and we can't lose our focus on the good things in life.
So many good things.
It's easy, as I said, to get bogged down. We're all guilty of it. We're trying not to immerse ourselves in bad news, morning, noon, and night, but we all have phones and we have, news headlines, and each is worse than the one before. And what is he doing now? And how are our investments going? But we must try and keep things into perspective. The midterms are next year. And the work starts now. The work starts now.
Amen. One thing I've been doing is checking the Indivisible Chicago website from time to time just to see the ways to fight back, because it just makes me feel better to know there are ways to fight back. And there have been more protests this week. There's going to be a big rally on May Day.
Yeah.
And you got to go to indivisiblechicago.com, and they have a calendar, and you can click on, say, I'm free next Tuesday, next Wednesday, next Thursday. Click on, because almost every day or a couple days a week they'll have opportunities to give back.
And we're going to, as the weather continues to improve, I know that people want to be out there showing how they feel. It makes you feel good to be around other people that are just as angry and upset as you are. This is what democracy looks like. So we have to keep the faith.
It's easy to feel alone now because everybody, you're on your phone, you're scrolling, you're seeing all these horrible headlines, and just knowing there's other people out there that feel the way you do is a great thing.
Indeed. Speaking of a great thing, we have a great next segment coming up for you when we welcome back to Out Chicago Second City's Kat McDonnell. Kat has been with us on our Pride broadcast. She's one of our funny commentators. Also joining us is Second City alum Claudia Martinez. They're going to tell us about their latest project, Meant to Be Seen. And we are going to just take a little break to have a word from our wonderful sponsor, David Hochberg. Kathy, why don't you do the honors
just
today?
Just like the old days. If you're purchasing a home, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Gus, electrician, income $90,000 a year. Contacted an online lender to get pre-approved to purchase his first home. Bad move. Gus was confused about the excessive closing cost he was being charged, so he called his father for advice. Gus's father told him to stop wasting his time with online lenders and strongly recommended Gus call Team Hochberg because he listens to David on the radio and respects his market knowledge and expertise. David answers Gus's questions and is helping him secure his first mortgage. So let's review. Gus called an online lender who tried charging him ridiculously excessive closing costs. David answered Gus's questions, explained the loan process, and is helping Gus secure his first mortgage. David helped Gus and thousands of radio listeners, but he can't help if you don't call. 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 or visit everyone's favorite website, 56david.com, lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS number 1124061.
We will be right back. You're listening to WCPT, where facts matter. And we are back. I'm Ellen Miller, sitting in for Scott today, and with me is my lovely wife, Kathy Voltmer, sitting in for me today. We're back, and joining us now are Second City's Kat McDonnell and Second City alum Claudia Martinez, creators of Meant to Be Seen, a pilot sketch series that celebrates the impact of American culture and comedy on a Mexican-American gay little thing. Welcome to the show, Kat and Claudia.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. They're also brand new homeowners. How's the new condo? We helped them find a new condo.
Yeah, it's great. We love it.
Have you unpacked fully yet?
Oh, not fully. There's still boxes and sort of piles that you're like, what is this? I don't know yet, but we will find out.
Well, it's a process, and I'm glad you're in. You're going to be there for the summer. It's a beautiful place to be, and I think you found the perfect place, so we're thrilled for you guys.
Oh, we think so, too. Yeah, thank you.
So tell us about Meant to Be Seen. Claudia, I know this is your baby, and Kat, you also are a part of it. But Claudia, let's start with you. Give us the background on the show, on the sketch series.
I've been doing sketch comedy for the last 12, 15 years. And, it's kind of been, it's been in the works in the last year because you have all these ideas and there's a part of you that's like, oh, I'll do something with them, and finally decided to do something. And it's really just, I think the description pinpoints it perfectly. It is a reminder of how much American culture has impacted me. I mean, my parents are immigrants and they came to the country, but I was born and raised here, and everything that I've seen, it's interesting to see now with the climate that's going on, how much that, has kind of introduced me into like American culture at a very, very early age. Mm-hmm. Like I would sneak down and watch I Love Lucy marathons and things like that. And so it's such a big part of my existence here that, I just was like, let's just write down. And I noticed that when in writing these sketches that a lot of it was like sort of memories of other iconic movies or situations. And it's just very interesting that these things kind of live in the back of your head and inspire you. But it's very silly. It's very dumb. It's also kind of the very first time that I've sort of experienced knowing who I am as a comedian. Mm-hmm. So it's really exciting because I'm putting something out there that's finally meant to be seen.
You say you feel like American comedy and pop culture has kind of shaped you, but have you ever really felt seen by it? And how are you reflecting, whether you have or haven't, in your new show?
Wow, that's a really good question. I feel like, as you know, I was at Second City for the last 10 years and on a resident stage for the last 3 or 4. And I think in recognizing that there's an audience seeing me, yes, but not particularly because it's not my entire show. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe this is the first time that I will feel like that. I think it's interesting because the cultural side of it is acknowledging that I live sort of two worlds. My parents mostly spoke Spanish, and so it's like these two worlds that are parallel to each other but don't kind of intersect really, and then they do at some points. And so it's been cool to write this because I feel like, I don't know, I think you can watch this and say, oh, this is in reference to a lot of the stuff that I grew up as a, Caucasian American. There's no differentiating. Mm-hmm. It's kind of what I'm noticing, and so I think it's really cool because I think it'll be the first time that I probably get my stuff seen as an American who is creating comedy on a bigger scale.
And are your parents reflected in this? And if so, how do they feel about it?
There's little touches. We've sort of been playing on just the idea of getting caught doing something in your bedroom, and the normal thing as a teenager is being caught doing something, maybe kind of weird, but mine is being caught putting on a wig and doing some stupid character or something like that. So, there's slight tinges of it. We've also been playing with like creating a scene where it's all in Spanish and then subtitles in English, just to sort of, because the two worlds do mix in my personal life, but on screen or like on comedy, you have to write so that people can understand in the English language. That's been an interesting thing to figure out how to make that seem like it's just part of the show and not specifically a left turn.
And
to show you that.
Do you have a target audience for the show?
If you think about sketch comedy, I mean, I think you can look at stuff and you go, who is this targeted to? I think everybody. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really interesting. I'm like going through my brain and going, how many people that look like me are doing any sort of sketch comedy? If you go through the sketch comedy shows that are out there, it's mostly a male-dominated world. It's mostly in a white male-dominated world. And so, my hope is that a lot more diverse people are able to see it and go, hey, that's me up there, or there is, a different path for that sketch comedy world. And so, probably more diverse people, but also, regular people. I mean, I think the stuff that I do can relate to just like any specific or non-specific comedian out there right now in the Chicagoland area.
We've been speaking with Second City alum Claudia Martinez, creator of Meant to Be Seen, a new pilot sketch series. She's doing it in collaboration with a longtime friend of the show and one of the guest commentators the last couple years on the WCPT Gay Pride Parade broadcast, Kat McDonnell. Let's bring in Kat now. Kat, what's the creative process like between the two of you, and how does this collaboration work?
Well, I have had the good fortune of working with Claudia in in a creative way for a long time. And that's sort of where our friendship began, which is really cool. And so we kind of already have this built-in process where, I've directed Claudia before. So I know a little bit how, when she brings an idea in, my job is to sort of, hear it and help, how do we not even in a language way, just how do we translate this idea out, or how can I help just with any sort of feedback or structure or whatever. And so with this show, I think it was one of my favorite sketches in the show was one that we were sitting down and writing together and visualizing our friend Maureen was going to say this line because this sounds like Maureen, and truly, or just coming up with inspiration, we play a piece of music and what does that make you think of, and now we're on a spaceship, and just sort of getting to brainstorm with your favorite person in the world, and then kind of take it another step from there.
So is there a challenge in being both partners in life and partners in this collaboration?
I think the cool thing about this collaboration is I'm 100% in the passenger seat in terms of the only goal I have for it is for Claudia and her vision to be seen. Mm-hmm. So I think however I can be helpful with that at any time is great. And if we did have a different idea on something or a different process, we'll defer to hers because it really is her project and it's her life and it's her inspiration that we're trying to capture and follow, which for me is just really fun because I feel very I feel very inspired by it. It's teaching me new things. The way her brain works is so different than mine. Mm-hmm. And it's so visual and it's so beautiful. And then I get to be inspired by it, and then I can go do my own thing off of that sometimes.
And the hope is that we both, the next turn will be cats, and we sort of just support each other that way.
Sure.
Yeah. It's okay, well, how do I help you?
Well, life isn't fun if you're with a partner that's exactly like you, right? I mean,
I can attest to that.
No, we are very different. We are very different as creators, and we're very different as people in our partnership. And I think in both ways, that's why it works.
Indeed, I can imagine. Also, you refer to it as a pilot sketch series. What is let our listeners know, what is the hope for this, and what does it mean to be a pilot for this series?
So, our goal with this,
go ahead.
Oh, no, is to record a series of sketches. And so these are short ideas and short scenes. If you think of something I Think You Should Leave by Tim Robinson and you watch that, it's a series of short scenes, and then together they make an episode. And so we are creating a short pilot, which would be the first episode of this, and shooting it and funding it and welcoming any additional funding so that then we can shop it and people could look at it and see, oh, do I want to make more of these? Like, this is the first of many episodes. Claude, would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. It's also just really hard to be a performer like we are, where, you just focus on sketch and you go, what are my options? And your options are move to LA and grind for another 10 years and hope someone picks up your stuff, or you make a connection, or you make it and, you hope that you can get some financial support. And that's kind of where we're at with this, is that if we believe if we make it, we can show it and someone can go, oh, I like that. And that, you have to make your way a lot in the comedy world and with a lot of stuff. So yeah, the hope is that, we create a really good product, and I've been blessed with like a really awesome team. Kat and I have found like people that are willing to do stuff for free that are really good at what they do. So, we know, I think the reassurance from people like that joining the project makes us feel really good, because it's like, I don't think they would donate their time if they didn't think this was not good.
Yeah. So when you say show it, just how do they? What do they do? Are these the people that are helping your team to get it seen?
Yeah, there is some connection to some, managers and agents who know people, but there's also the path of submitting it to festivals. So all this stuff costs a lot of money, is what I'm finding out.
Sure.
And there's all those different avenues. I don't know if Kat can think of anything else, but yeah, you're basically sort of giving it to someone to show to someone, or putting it out there through festivals so that people can see it.
Makes sense.
It sounds like creativity and staffing are not your challenge here. Your biggest challenge is the financial. How can listeners help out with that? Where can they reach out?
Yeah, if you would love to help us and support us in this project, you can. I think the easiest way, we have a GoFundMe, but the easiest way, since we don't have access to like giving people a link right now over audio, is you can follow me on Instagram at Claude Boom. So I'm going to spell it out, CLAUDBOOM. On Instagram, and I have my link directly to that GoFundMe page. And by the way, that used to be a nickname in high school that I had as a wannabe breakdancer.
Yeah, I was about to ask where the boom came in. Okay, that makes sense.
So, I just thought it was a really good breakdancer.
Why?
Was I good? No.
Sure you were. There weren't as many women doing it, so I'm sure you were at the forefront. I have to ask you both before we let you go. Claudia, who's your biggest influence in comedy growing up? Was it Lucy, or was it somebody else?
It was Lucille Ball, definitely. I mean, I alluded to earlier to sneaking down and watching marathons, but that was literally my childhood up until I still do it. But I think it's just that acknowledgement of a strong female presence that can do it so well. That has kind of carried on. So, there's Lucy, but there's also someone like Molly Shannon, and there's people in the Chicagoland community that a lot of people don't know of. And that's part of the other reason that this project is interesting to me, because I want to use those people. This turns into a place where apparently, like the comedy is born here, but people go elsewhere to get it.
Right.
And so the goal is maybe I can provide work for people that I think are really funny. And it's people like, that I have the pleasure and the honor of working with now that I never thought I would be. So yeah, it's a long list.
Yeah, we're lucky. We have it's an embarrassment of riches here in Chicago when it comes to improv and comedy.
Yeah.
We're very blessed. How about you, Kat?
It's a great question, and it feels kind of like silly to say, but there are some Second City alums that people will never know about, except for maybe like the people who worked with them. So like we know Tina Fey, we know Rachel Dratch, but the other woman that was on main stage with them for some of their best show, like what a really like an incredible show, Paradigm Lost, was this woman named Jenna Jolowitz. And it's like when I go back and we have access to the archives in Second City, and I watch this woman do so many ETC and main stage shows, and I'm like, this woman is amazing, right? And like that's how I feel when I watched like Mary Sohn and Beth Malusky on ETC. That's how I felt when I watched Katie Rich on main stage, and honestly, it's how I felt. Sounds silly, but it's how I feel watching Claudia too. And
that's so sweet. Well,
speaking of Beth Malusky, I do have a improv show with her at Tuesdays at 8 p.m. at IO. If anybody wants to make it out to some live comedy.
Yeah, IO Tuesday, every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday at IO 8 p.m. The title of the show is going to get everybody, so I got to say it. It's Freak of the Week, 2 Dead-Ass Hoes, 8 p.m. at IO.
Well, Kathy and I can both attest to seeing Claudia on the main stage at Second City, and you...
ETC.
I'm sorry, ETC.
Yeah.
And when we saw you, we didn't know you personally, but you, in our opinion, stole the show. So... it's no wonder you're doing what you're doing. And I want to thank you both for taking time out today to be with us. Best of luck to you on Meant to Be Seen. You can go to @ClaudeBoom, @ClaudeBoom on Instagram.
You have to have been better than Reagan. Remember Reagan from the Olympics?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
She was definitely better than Reagan.
Definitely better than Reagan.
Well, I'm wishing you both a happy Easter, whatever you're going to be doing. And whatever you do, I know you'll do it with joy because you two are fabulous, fabulous people. And wishing you all the best. And Kat, hope to have you back on with us very soon, maybe even the Pride Parade.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Of course, good luck.
Good luck to you both.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. Happy Easter. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to have Charlie Okerlund. He's going to be with us from the Logan Square Arts Foundation. You're listening to WCPT, where facts matter.
Welcome back. I'm improviser Matthew Van Colton. You're listening to Out Chicago on WCPT 820.
And we are indeed back. This is Ellen Miller. I'm sitting in the host chair for Scott today, and with me is the wonderful Kathy Voltmer as my
great to be
co-host
here.
extraordinaire.
We miss Scott, but it's always fun to be here.
It is fun to do a show together. Every once a year or so, we get to do this, so we're happy to be here on this Easter Sunday, as a matter of fact. But joining us now... we have someone very special, Charlie Okerlund. He's from the Logan Square Arts Foundation. Charlie's going to tell us about everything they're doing to keep the arts going in Logan Square and keep us happy and joyful in this world. Charlie, welcome to Out Chicago.
Thank you for having me. And it is pronounced Åkerlund. It's
Åkerlund. I forgot to ask you how to Åkerlund. Is that Swedish?
I am of Swedish descent. Thanks for that's awesome that you picked up on that.
I try, Charlie. So thanks for being with us today. Tell us a little bit about what you do and what Logan Square Arts Foundation is all about.
So, yeah, I serve on the board of the Logan Square Arts Foundation. We launched March 31st, rebranding from our previous name, I Am Logan Square, or in long form, the Independent Artists and Merchants of Logan Square. We marked a shift from our flagship was a festival. So we're making a shift from a volunteer-run festival model to more of a year-round cultural foundation and institution.
I think that's awesome because Logan Square, as our many Chicago neighborhoods, is a vibrant hub for the arts. How do you see the foundation kind of amplifying that energy?
Yeah, the foundation is investing in local artists and public programming that really fully reflects on the neighborhood. Like you, I also believe that Logan Square is a catalyst for creativity and innovation in our city. And it really, the community is really at the core of everything what drives that creativity and innovation. So investing in that community and allowing that creativity to flourish, if you will, is really the number one goal here.
Nice. What upcoming projects or initiatives are you most excited about?
Yeah, so we have our Spark series. That is a free pop-up concert in neighborhood parks starting this summer. Really, how it kind of originated was we started these concerts as a lifeline to artists and performers during COVID. Just a few musicians, a few speakers, and a park full of neighbors who needed that kind of connection. Now we're kind of scaling up more artists, more shows, but that same one-to-one feeling. And it's not just about showing up for the community. It's really creating a zero barrier entry for the community to not only support the arts, but to also participate in the arts.
And how does that participation look?
We are, another one of our initiatives is we're empowering our local schools and their art programs. So driving that participation at a young level, we're really empowering about not just empowering, as you said, the creativity that is currently in the neighborhood. We're really wanting to empower the future generation of artists and creatives in the neighborhood.
That's more important now than ever with so many threatened cuts to the arts. It's been in danger anyway for years, and now in the current regime, everything seems to be on the chopping block, especially things that are important, like, and we obviously feel the arts are right at the top of importance.
I've always enjoyed the Logan Square Arts Festival so much, but it's going to look a little different. It's not going to be with us this year, but then it's going to be back bigger and better than ever next. Can you explain that process?
Yes. We're coming back in 2026. The year off that we're taking is really about focusing on building out sustainable programming that supports the artists and the audiences year-round. We are at the forefront of everything that we do is community. And that really stems from before the festival itself. It predates the festival itself. Community has always been at the core for any sort of events and programming and initiatives in the neighborhood. So we're really trying to support that year-round and support the next artists that are going to be performing on the stage, the next art educators that are going to be leading interactive demonstrations with our children that come to our festival, empowering our next generation of interdisciplinary artists that are going to be painting, performing, theater, sculpture, etc. So by building out that framework and that programming year-round, I think we're going to be contributing to when we go back to having a festival next year in a bigger, better, bolder fashion that really reflects the community in the neighborhood.
And are there specific areas where these will take place all year round? Obviously, some will be inside, some will be outdoors. Is that the plan?
One of our main focuses is Kosciuszko Park, or otherwise known as Cos Park, which is the largest park space in the neighborhood. That is right off Diversey, just a few blocks east of Pulaski, and it has some big fields, and it has that space to have great large scale programming with that pop-up concert series, but also smaller venues that are still being programmed as well.
Excellent. We saw that park. I remember when we drive down the boulevard, and during COVID, people were gathering there. You know, it was a huge place for people to have community. And we always were saying, wow, what a great space that is. They're so lucky to have that, you know, right in the neighborhood. So I'm glad you're utilizing it to further the arts in the neighborhood. It's going to be great. When's the first? Is there something coming up soon that's on the docket?
Stay tuned. You know, definitely feel free to follow all of our socials. Logan Square AF, Logan Square Arts Foundation. That's what it stands for. Logan Square AF on all social media channels, and then check out our website at logansquareaf.com. That's the letter AF at the end of Logan Square.
We are obviously a LGBTQ plus talk show, and I just wondered how you see the Logan Square Arts Fest serving the LGBTQ plus community.
Yes, well, as a out and proud gay man, early on in my adulthood, I gravitated towards Logan Square. I moved there fresh out of college to participate in what I saw as a really creative neighborhood of not only artists but also queer artists too, queer artistry. There's a lot of eccentric ideas that were being floated around, eccentric performances. Every night when I first got there around 12 years ago was just so bright and colorful, and I loved it. And the festival, what I see around me at that festival is a really vibrant, diverse, and queer-friendly neighborhood that is open and accepting of everybody. And not only are they participating, but they're also performing. I've seen a lot of my LGBTQ community members take the stage at a lot of our events, and also stages throughout the neighborhood too. So, supporting that community is at the forefront of also what we do.
Excellent. Well, you know, I front a band, so if you need any more band suggestions, let's talk off air. We'd love to play.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, we have a great band, and we play around different festivals. I get my 2 cents. And before I let you go, I know it's probably not part of the Logan Square Arts Foundation, but the very famous and popular Logan Square Farmers Market, is that going to be happening with all the construction, or is it going to go on this summer?
I believe so, but you would definitely have to check with our friends at the Logan Square Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
They produce that. And I love the footprint that they had last summer over on Kedzie. It was a lot less congested, and I really hope that they get back to that. But I think what is really great that's going to come out of this construction project on the square is this plaza that is great for performance, for art, for merchants, for showcasing the creativity and the entrepreneurship, that spirit that permeates through our neighborhood.
Fantastic. Charlie, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. We love hearing about Logan Square and all of the great arts that are going to be taking place, all the performance artists and visual arts. And this is what makes our city great, are the neighborhoods. And our hats off to you for the good work that you're doing there. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. You know, as you said, the arts are under the threat in this current climate that we're under, on the top of the chopping block, if you will.
Yep.
So none of this happened. What we're doing, it can happen without resources. So we're trying to build out that resources to empower the next generation, but also, you know, inviting people to step in and help power it today.
And I'm on your website right now. That's logansquareaf.com, logansquareaf.com, and there is a button where people can donate. So we encourage everybody to do that.
Charlie Ackerland,
Well,
thank you
so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being with us. We wish you good luck this year, and we'll be coming out to see these fabulous programs that you put together. Thanks so much. Happy Easter.
Yeah. Happy Easter to you, too, and I look forward to seeing you.
We are going to take a break for the news, and when we come back, we'll have mortgage broker and playwright Shimmy Braun and members of the all-women band Vintage Blonde Chicago. You're listening to WCPT celebrating our 20th anniversary.
I'd like to welcome you to WCPT AM's Out Chicago. Think of us as Sunday brunch with your gay best friends. Now please welcome your host, Scott Duff.
And we are back. I'm Ellen Miller. With me is Chicago News Radio legend Kathy Voltmer. And we have a great second hour for you. We're going to be chatting shortly with Linda Martin and Kim Swinton. They're of the band Vintage Blonde Chicago. They're going to be here in the studio. We'll hear a little of their upcoming music from their upcoming record. And also joining us first from London, a dear friend of the show. You've seen Shimmy. You've heard Shimmy. He's been on our float at the Pride Parade. He has been a sponsor of our show and a dear friend, a mortgage broker, and now playwright. He will be premiering his new play, Fegala, at the Marylebone Theatre in London's West End. And with us now, Shimmy Braun.
Woo!
Hey, Shimmy.
Hey, Ellen.
And
hey, Ellen and Kathy.
Hi, Shimmy. So glad to have you here.
We are
Thank
thrilled to have you
here.
all the way from London. How is the show going so far? I know you're in rehearsals.
It's been a revelation, honestly. I've started writing this play back in January of 2022, so it's 3 years running. And I've had a couple of readings in New York, where the actors just kind of say the lines, but this is the first time I'm seeing it acted out for a production, and it's a very personal play to me. So it's just been beautiful hearing the words while seeing it actually performed. And every day I'm learning new things about things that I've written, a couple of years ago, and kind of finding more meaning. And so it keeps on getting better, honestly, every day.
It's coming alive before your very eyes, and I'm sure it's got to be an amazing feeling. What inspired you to write Fegala?
So I was always a theater nerd. I loved going to theater, and I also always loved writing. And as you know, I've spoken about this before on the show, and for those who don't, I did grow up an Orthodox Jew. For most of my life, I had an arranged marriage when I was 21 to a woman I knew for 12 days, and then got married 3 months later. So, and I at the time kind of had feelings for other guys, but didn't really understand it in that world. So it took me a little while until I came out, and it was a huge struggle. Of course, going through all that, having to let my wife, and I have 4 children, letting them all know. And after I came out, a lot of people reached out to me because it was not common for an Orthodox Jewish man to be out. And one of them was a young fellow who was in his 20s, and he lived within, I was blessed that I had people that supported me. I was able to, when I came out, it was kind of one of those situations where it was like life or death almost. I felt like I was propelled to a point where I just didn't have a choice. And, but I had the support that was able to get me through it. Unfortunately, this young man didn't, and he ended up taking his own life. And so this story was inspired by his life, and I wanted to talk to the character, and the show's name is Ari. I wanted to write a show to all the Aris out there.
In Yiddish, Fegala literally means little bird, but common vernacular, it's used to refer to a gay male. It's so loaded with meaning and with history. Why did you decide to choose it as the title of the work?
So, like a little bird in a cage, Ari in the closet in an oppressive home, we're dealing with the intersection of like faith, family, and identity. Is even with the door to the cage open, I imagine he's staying in the cage. So he is a little bird trying to find his way out. So from that standpoint, it actually has a literal meaning. And then, of course, as we know in our world, let's use queer as an example, right? For many years, queer was a derogatory term, but the more we use it, the more it's been out there, the less power it's been given. So I use the name Fagel throughout the show, and my hope is that we can reclaim that as a word that ultimately loses some of that nastiness and can be used in a way that maybe ultimately be loving and common at some point.
So you came out. You had 4 children and a wife. It had to be very difficult for you. What was did your parents support you? Did they turn their back on you, or how did things unfold for you with your family?
So it was definitely difficult. Everybody kind of different for everybody. My ex-wife, it was rough, but she understood it. She was very supportive. We together told our children, each one individually, and so that we were a unit, telling them, showing them that we still loved each other through it. Each of them went through their journey, and we all went through journeys together. I was really, really blessed. My father, who's ultra-Orthodox, when I told him, and he literally said, "There's nothing you could tell me that will make me love you any less." Those were his words. And I broke down immediately because coming out is so counterintuitive. You just don't know. The people you think may be there for you and love you can sometimes be the more difficult ones. And then the ones that you expect to maybe have a harder time with sometimes give you the most love. And that's kind of what happened with me, and I'm blessed. So I have that love from my family. My siblings are all ultra-Orthodox still, so we kind of do a don't ask, don't tell, and tiptoe around the whole gay conversation, but they still love me and we're still in touch. It's just a difficult subject.
Well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners that are part of the community can relate. We can all, we all came out. We all had to come out at some point. And You're right about those, you get surprised. There's people that you thought you were going to have a harder time with, and they were beautiful, and people that you thought would be more accepting that didn't take it so well. But in the long run, when it came to family, for me and Kathy, and I speak for many, and you, thankfully, our parents, the words your dad said, it's not going to stop me from loving you any more than I do. And my father felt the same way about my brother and about me. And, it's love wins. I mean, and I found that I was the one that was more concerned in some cases than those that I was telling. I was the one that was so worried and thinking I wouldn't be accepted, I wouldn't be loved, I wouldn't, they'd be mad, they'd be upset, and it wasn't true, because if we're our authentic selves, more times than not always, we're going to be accepted. And I'm happy to hear that that's what you found. Particularly with your parents, because that can be a tough road.
Shimmy is the perfect example for me as to how living your authentic life just draws more and more love to you and success to you. And it's just been so wonderful to see all the successes you've had, not only in the mortgage business, but now in this theatrical world. How have these other theatrical successes that you've had informed this present play?
It's really an interesting business. It's interesting as a theater goer, you sit down in a chair and you watch a production and hopefully you enjoy it, but you don't realize the world. Literally an orchestra might be there for a musical, but it's an orchestra that is involved in creating a show, getting it from page to stage, as they say. There are so many steps between casting and lighting and sound design and costume design and production and the funds, and there's so much that I've learned along the way, and I'm still 100% doing mortgages as well. So this is kind of, in a weird way, a side gig, but I am learning a lot. And it has. I've watched it now. I'm blessed to have seen it on a handful of shows. So now experiencing it internationally, especially in London, which is has a beautiful theater scene, is really exciting.
That led to my next question. I was going to ask you, how different is working in the London theater scene versus working in New York?
Well, they use a lot of different terminology.
Whilst they?
Yeah. They were saying something about something being burgled before, and I was like, burglarized? They're like, no, burgled. I was like, that actually sounds like a Yiddish word.
Right. Yeah.
Burgled.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. They are very sensitive to the text. We're breaking down the play line by line and making sure everything is consistent and everything runs right and feels authentic to the characters in a way that I hadn't really done before. Our director, Hannah Chiswick, is just a master at understanding motivation and text. So I truly believe that once this makes it to the stage, it's going to feel real and alive, and I'm really excited about that.
How involved were you with the casting and now the directing process? Are you involved in all that, or do you just kind of sit back and watch everybody do their thing?
No, I was involved in the casting process. We hire a casting director, and it's actually an all Jewish cast, and the director's Jewish, I'm Jewish, so it has an interesting dynamic that way. And then the director as well, we spoke for a bit, and it just clicked. She has somewhat of an Orthodox background, so was familiar with this world. And I've always said that I need this to be as authentic as possible, because what I've learned is the more specific and authentic you create a story, the more it is actually relatable to the world. The less authentic when you're kind of like tiptoeing around it, then it doesn't ring true. And so it's important for me that I'm in this Orthodox Jewish world, and that is what people see, and that is what they take with them. We had these readings in New York where there were gay, straight, the full LGBT. It was beautiful for me to watch them all and their reactions and the tears coming down and them feeling things, because they weren't necessarily gay. It talks to anyone that's been marginalized, or anyone that has somebody in their life that's been marginalized, because that's who needs to hear this and see this. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of playwrights that are doing a world premiere are constantly editing. I have friends that are actors that tell me, there's rewrites. We're changing this page. Are you doing much of that? Or are you finding out that, your original script is holding true right now?
I'm doing rewrites, but not necessarily story-wise. It's more kind of what they would call dramaturgical, just making sure things are consistent throughout the story, and making sure that people sound the way they do throughout the story. So it's more just kind of, I would call it more on a touch-up level than a true rewrite. I have rewritten it, up to this point numerous times, but they have they have the version of the show that we've started with, and that's the core of what it will be on stage.
Of course. Good. What do you hope audiences take away from Fagala?
I think I would probably say two things. So the first is to all the Aries out there, right? So those teenage boys, or even an adult or whoever it is that's marginalized, it's just important for them to know they're not alone, right? That there are people that love them, and they may not be right beside them, and you might not see it right away, but they're out there. And if they look, sometimes you just have to look a little harder and to find that love, but they will find it, and it will get better. That's kind of the message to them. And then for people who are seeing it that aren't necessarily gay or not, or they have someone in their life that's marginalized, or just want to see a nice piece of theater, for me, I hope they leave with some more compassion, curiosity, empathy, just the will to sort of hear other people's stories. It's we often judge what we don't understand, but everybody has their own story, and I want Fagala to kind of open the door to listening to those stories with empathy.
The world needs more of that thinking, for sure.
Fagala opens April 30th on London's West End. What do you see the next steps being for this play? Will we be able to eventually see it in New York and Chicago?
Yeah, that's definitely my hope for the show. I was at a Passover Seder the other night, and there was someone from Israel, and she said, will it come to Israel? And I said, I really, really hope so. I mean, my goal, of course, is for as many people to see it as possible. I love getting its start here in London because there is something about working through a niche piece of new theater here. But yes, I certainly would love to see it come to Chicago, to New York, and wherever it might be had.
We would love to see it, and I'm so proud and thrilled for you, Shimmy. Fagala is running, as Kathy said, April 30th until May 31st at the Marylebone Theatre in London's West End. And if you need a mortgage, you can also contact Shimmy at Cross Country Mortgage Company, correct? You're still doing the mortgage thing.
I was just doing that a few hours ago, but yes, I am still doing that as well. Shimmy at ccm.com. You can always find me there.
You are feeding your soul in so many ways, and we love and appreciate you for that. Wish you all the best. Break a leg.
We're so proud of you. It's so exciting.
And we look forward to hearing more about Fagala as the journey continues. Thanks so much, Shimmy.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Love you guys, too.
Love you, too. Take care. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return in studio, we will have members of the band Vintage Blonde Chicago. So stay tuned to WCPT, where facts matter. And we are back on Out Chicago. I'm Ellen Miller, and with me is Kathy Voltmer. And this is Vintage Blonde Chicago.
That's okay. I don't like the rules. Can't stand the games you play. Don't have to hug me.
That was In My Way by Vintage Blonde Chicago. It's their new single, and joining us now in the studio are Kim Swinton and Linda Martin from Vintage Blonde Chicago. Welcome, ladies.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
It's good to have you here. So let's talk about Vintage Blonde Chicago. How did you come together?
Great. So we actually started as a cover band about 10 years ago. I've been playing with my sister, Rez, who wrote that song since we were teens in different bands. And then Linda, my wife, joined us about 10 years ago, and we found our drummer, Nina, and we were a cover band. So we were mostly playing, 3.5, 4 hours a night, 40, 45 songs. Ooh. And then COVID happened, and we had started to write our own stuff, and we decided we were going to stop and completely focus on our originals and put this album out.
So you turned lemons into lemonade, as they say.
I just love the band name. How did you decide on the name of the band?
Yeah, and I think that is...
well, three of us are blonde,
right.
And we're kind of vintage.
Hey, so are we.
It just kind of,
I don't
know, it just kind of stuck.
Fell into place, but also it's a double entendre because my first guitar was a blonde Stratocaster, and so that means a wooden Stratocaster that I got when I was 13, and they called that a vintage blonde Strat. So
there's
took the name from that instrument, but also because, as Linda said, we are blonde and
three of us are
vintage. Yes, right. So that's where we got the name.
And then you added Chicago to it just because?
Because we wanted to. Well, first off, we're from here, but also we did want to differentiate from other vintage blonde. I think there's some stores out there, and I think there's another band, Vintage Blonde. So we wanted to make sure that
I was wondering about that.
Chicago's very important. That if you're ever searching for us on streaming or digital, that you look for Vintage Blonde Chicago, because that's going to get you to us.
And that's our roots, and we just feel so connected to Chicago.
Are you both born and raised in the Chicago area, in the city, in the suburbs?
All of us.
All of us.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And you've always played around here. Or have you done any touring nationally?
We've played in some other places, but primarily we are a local band.
Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Well, so your new album is called Afterlife. It was engineered by the legendary Steve Albini, who worked with Nirvana and Pixies.
All sorts of
great.
names.
Just to name a couple. I mean, he was so beloved here in Chicago. Sadly, as many people know, Steve passed away unexpectedly about a year ago. How did you get connected with Steve Albini?
Well, we were looking for the right fit studio for this recording, and a couple, studios just didn't work out timing-wise and everything. So Rez and Kim went to meet up with Steve at Electrical Audio, and he was the warmest, nicest guy.
You wonder, because somebody who's that big a name, who's worked with this many huge bands, you just wonder how they're going to be when you meet them in person.
And it's kind of a male-dominated space, and he just was really respectful. And
he had a rep as such an opinionated guy, but he is so smart. And when my sister and I went in there, he took about an hour of time to show us around and say, hey, prep this way or that. You want to have everything worked out. Don't be rehearsing your harmonies in the space, because it's going to be the most expensive rehearsal you ever had.
Smart.
And so he did a lot of prep on our equipment, our tech, our pedal trains, how we should approach. And he was just, great and giving and welcoming to us. And it was a great experience, and very emotional, because before we went in for the final, he recorded us in 7 days. It's a very live sound that he wants, sort of a continuous playthrough, limited overdubs, sort of that raw sound. And then we were going in back and forth to do the rough mixes and then the final mixes. He finished the final mix of 6 of 8 songs, and we were going in Mother's Day weekend, and he passed away the Monday before that weekend.
Oh, no.
And so it was really
devastating.
Yeah.
I know he passed away suddenly with no warning.
We were just in the middle of, and we had heard he was looking forward to seeing us, and he was just gone.
So that had to affect you all.
Well, emotionally and as far as the project was concerned.
Yeah. Well, luckily, Taylor Hales at his kind of second in command
at Electrical Audio.
He took over and stepped in.
He took over, and I think it was therapeutic for him. So we went back in because our drummer was out of town, and she was in town at that time, and he worked with us, and we mixed the final 2 songs, and it was really weird. We felt Steve in the studio for sure.
I'll bet.
And it was just It was amazing that we got to spend time with him.
So your project was probably one of the last he worked on.
Absolutely. And, we felt super close to him after working overtime 6 months. And so, many bands that had been with him for decades, I can't imagine how they feel. Right.
Well, in his own band,
his own band.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a musician as well. And I have a lot of musician friends. And his loss was so deeply felt by this community. They even named the street on Belmont.
We were there.
Yeah, the honorary Steve Albini Way. And people were just shattered by his passing. A beautiful person, as you said, inside and out. Besides the fact that his creative genius was so important to the music community here in Chicago and in the whole country, nationally and internationally.
That has to be so special to you that you were one of the last projects he worked on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and he recorded us on tape too, so it was the old school kind of way, and we connected so much to that. And there's not a lot of people that do that.
We had so much fun. We laughed. He had lots of little key sayings like "Oney, Dunny, Money" and "Bob's your uncle." And he was. I don't think he was originally from Chicago, but he was, by an honorary Chicago guy. For sure.
Indeed,
totally
and
was.
immortalized now, as we said, with a street named after him. Tell us, what are your biggest musical influences? I'm always interested in hearing, who you listen to and who inspired you to do what you do.
Sure. So for, I think both Linda and I, coming up, Heart was so huge.
So many
Anna
women
Nancy.
say that.
Yeah, because you've got the vocals and the guitar playing
vocals
going
and
on.
the guitar,
Yeah.
and there they were in a very fronting a band in a very male space. But then Chrissy Hine, the Pretenders, that was really key to me coming up. We thought she was terrific. Joan Jett, which it's funny because the Illinois Entertainer just compared us to her band.
Oh,
which,
fantastic.
We thought
That's
that
not a
was
bad thing.
Really nice thing.
That is huge.
And Linda, who do you want to
like
add?
Zeppelin. I loved Aerosmith. We grew up with
and
all
you
the
love
classics.
the Indigo Girl.
I loved Indigo Girls and Melissa.
Yes,
and
good lesbians. You got to love the Indigo Girls and Melissa.
Farrick. I mean,
Melissa Farrick.
So many. I was a big acoustic guitar player, and the girls transitioned me to electric. So
You flipped her.
It flipped me.
They flipped her in the best of ways.
And let me also say our drummer, Nina, who's a tad younger than us, she really brought back to us the band with covers, etc. These great bands, which I didn't pay as much attention to at the time, like Nirvana, Collective Soul, Soundgarden. She really pulled in a lot of 90s stuff and brought that to life for me in a way that I hadn't. I knew it, of course, but didn't really dive in there on it. And she really brought that to life for us.
Yeah,
as
so
well.
we covered a lot of 90s stuff, which was a lot of fun.
Right.
Perfect. Well, tell me a little bit about collaborating as writers. I mean, do you all write, or is there a main writer? How does the process work for you?
Kim and her sister largely wrote most of these songs, and Kim and I collaborated on Hurricane, and that was one of the fastest songs we wrote, really. But you want to talk?
Sure. I think I wrote 5 of 8, 1 with you, and my sister wrote 3. And so she wrote In My Way, which you just heard, and another song on the album, which is really a dark anthem about death called Skull and Bone. We also call my sister the Queen of Halloween. And that ends the album, and that's a real good one about how we're all equal in the end. And then she wrote, what's the other one, Lenny?
Let's talk about the ones you wrote.
Oh, the ones I wrote. Okay.
Kim tends to write songs about.
And she wrote When the Smoke Clears, which is a breakup song.
Okay,
and
makes sense.
I think that, my songs are Hurricane, You're the One, Alien Message, Backtrack, No Girls in the Band. I think they're perhaps a tad more political. Okay.
Yeah, what's No Girls in the Band? Tell me about that
No
song.
Girls in the Band is really a song about as we were growing up, all of the bands in the late 70s, 80s, 90s, you know, when you're looking at Aerosmith or Zeppelin, etc., you weren't in the band. You were only a groupie. So if you were going to be a part of it, you were sort of just dragged along. And that was how it was done. And nothing against those bands, because we love those bands, but there wasn't a place for a woman. She was backstage, you know, pushed to the side, taken along, as I said, played that role of groupie. And so that song's a tongue-in-cheek song about if you wanted to be involved as a woman, what your role was. So
it's a spoof, really, on that. And it's got a great harmonica at the end.
Yeah, that's Linda.
You know that Ellen
You know, I'm a harmonica player.
Oh, really?
Maybe you didn't know that. How would you know that?
Probably not that great compared to you. I don't know. I'm just messing around with it. But.
Yeah, I've been. That's my stock and trade. I play. I do play guitar. I started on acoustic guitar as a 12-year-old and started on harmonica a little later when I was like 15 or 16. So I've realized that there were very few women harmonica players, tons of guitar players in all genres, but not many women playing harmonica. So that's the instrument that I perform with my band, and I have a band as well. So yeah, is there some... What songs have harmonica on?
The No Girls in the Band
No Girls.
has it at the end.
But we did a lot of our covers that had harmonica too, so that's kind of how I picked it up.
So if you could collaborate with any artist, living or dead, who would it be? You can think about it for a moment. Dun, 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 dun,
well, we must say Heart again.
Oh, Heart would be a blast.
Would you like to collaborate with?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. But
I'm sure you would say like Janis Joplin or something, right?
Oh, wow. That would be awesome, too. Right. What about, like, I was thinking about like an Adele or a Lady Gaga or something. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, she'd be fantastic. Either one of those would be fantastic.
Fantastic.
You have really made your mark as an independent band on the Chicago music scene. What do you think the biggest challenge is of being an independent band in this day and age?
But boy, I think getting heard, because we're learning so much. You know, I was reading that you put your music out on digital and streaming platforms now, and that 80% of the songs put out there never hit the algorithm to get played.
Wow.
And who knows if we will or not. We're going to push hard to do that. But so all this music out there, and maybe some of it's really great, but it's not heard. And so and even Steve spoke to this. He said they had a band Shellac, which was very in the very punky, heavy punky space. And he said they made most of their income through merchandise.
Wow.
So it's not even selling the music any. I mean, that's done, and there's no profit in that, and so it's more live shows and selling merch that is how you could potentially make a living at this. So I think it's tough to have this be your full-time job, you know, for.
It's so true. And, you know, we have a lot of musician friends, and it's like how many CDs did they sell or T-shirts after the show? That's really where the money is made. And, you know, we're always in a quandary because we, of course, subscribe to Spotify, like so many people do, or some, you know, music service. And I buy CDs just to support the bands, but you know, we don't even have a CD player in our car anymore.
Right.
I mean, we still have CD players at home, but we've gotten so used to yelling out to a speaker, to a digital assistant.
Hey Siri, play Vintage Blonde.
Yeah. So I'm just, it's as a musician who loves music and loves up my fellow musicians, it's a double-edged sword, this digital world that we're living in. You know, I see you've got a vinyl
We just had to make a vinyl.
You got to make the vinyl. I mean, kids are buying the vinyl right now, right?
And we've even got like the liner notes and everything, because that's kind of how we.
Don't you remember as a kid just studying the liner notes,
to see
studying
the words,
lyrics, learning the words, staring at the cover of the album. I mean, just opening the whole physical feeling of opening an album was just it was like spiritual.
And Kim's sister Rez is a artist, and she actually designed this and painted this. This is a oil painting that we have hanging in our band space.
Oh, that's
very
cool.
And we
cool.
made it into the album, and there's just little things about each song in there that
We love
it was amazing.
we'll read the liner notes just like old times.
Yeah.
Thank you for gifting us with this
yeah.
record. You mentioned Hurricane. We're going to hear a little bit of it. Give us a little, before we play it, a little background again on Hurricane.
Yeah, sure. So this one's really, I think as all of us have experienced these horrible disasters, even here in Chicago, walking outside, the sky is red, it's smoky, it smells like tires from these Canadian fires,
Yep.
Thousands of them. And you see what's happening in North Carolina with the flooding, Florida, the hurricanes, out in L.A., and then our drummer Nina even went to Greece, and Greece was on fire. And there's a line in the song, "The whole wide world's on effing fire," and we think it encapsulates how we're feeling about that. But also, in my view, the chorus, we wanted to. I believed, the politicians or leaders would figure this out and protect us all, and come to find out
They were working on it until you know what happened.
Yes, and that's so fallen apart, and it's just a crushing, frustrating feeling. And then beyond that, the idea that Mother Nature's going to, if we continue this way, take us all in the end. Doesn't matter if you have $400 billion or, are a normal person. It's a great equalizer, and it's a terrifying thing. Right?
But it's a good song.
Well, yeah, we're going to hear a little of it now. We're going to hear Hurricane from Vintage Blonde Chicago. Let's listen to a little.
Hurricanes are coming. She'll rip you off your track. You better flip the side switch, honey, before she breaks your back. Your house, your truck, your motorbike, she'll split them all in two. Batten down the hatches, baby, 'cause she's coming through. Agree. So many years wasted on talking naive. I thought that we could break through. Deceive. Almighty man sold our tomorrows. Believe me, you'll feel her coming through. It's hot every day. I can't believe we let the kids down this way, working so hard, secure the future. Well, you were selling our parts off to the butcher. Eerie red sky filled with burnt plastic. We're breathing it all in. The whole wide world's fire. I guess you got your win. Agree.
You can fill in the blanks where you heard the little edits.
That's great. The lyrics are great.
Really great lyrics. Yes.
Thank you.
What a
Thank
great
you.
song. So, if you could play any festival, is your goal to play festivals around the country, or what's your realistic goals for the band?
Absolutely. We want to, I think for sure we want to write another album. So that's a goal. But this one we want to promote. We like the festival idea, and we want to play venues where they're playing new music. So yes, we could add some covers, but for us the ideal thing is an hour set, our songs in a setting where we could get the songs promoted.
I think Riot Fest would be perfect.
Riot Fest,
Is
yeah,
that,
yeah. It's good.
Are you out trying to get these bookings?
Trying to get bookings and trying to. We're working on perhaps a manager or booking agent. So that's as soon as we get this thing released on. Completely on May 4.
We're excited about it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your big record
You've
release
got
party.
the record release launch party coming up at Shuba's May 4th.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. So there's tickets on sale, and
On your website?
On our website.
On the website.
And on the Shubas.
On the
Lincoln
Shubas
Hall
site.
website.
VintageBlondeChicago.com is the website. Makes a lot of sense. The new album is Afterlife, and tickets are on sale now.
Yep, and we'll be playing the entire album live. It's doors open 6:30, and we'll be playing at 7 p.m. on Sunday, May 4th.
And then we got some merch on sale. We got some merch on sale now on our website. You can get T-shirts, CDs, albums.
And the album looks great. The artwork is great. The songs are great. Let's support these women. You know, as a woman in music, we always have to try harder. There's not as many of us out there, and we're out there fighting the good fight. And so, Steve Albini, one of his last projects as an engineer, he was a part of this record. So it's already legendary. So I'm hoping that. You find great success, and that we see you at Riot Fest this year.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, so those it's been a pleasure to have you here. We've had Kim Swinton and Linda Martin from Vintage Blonde Chicago. Remember, they will be playing a record release launch party at Shuba's on Sunday, May 4th. Is it 7 p.m.?
7 p.m.
And it's for the new album Afterlife, and they're going to play the whole album live. So go to VintageBlondeChicago.com for more information. Happy Easter to you both.
Easter. Thanks for having us.
To all of you. Yes.
Thanks for coming out, and we really appreciate it. All the best to you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much.
Really appreciate it.
This is Ellen Miller and Kathy Voltmer. We are going to take a short break, and when we come back, the exciting, thrilling, show-stopping moments of Out Chicago here on WCPT, where facts matter.
I'm Honey West. Welcome to Out Chicago on WCPT.
And we are back. This is Ellen Miller. I'm sitting in for Scott today, who's taking a well-deserved Easter holiday off. And with me is my lovely wife and news radio legend, Kathy Voltmer.
You make me feel so good when I come in.
Well, because you are good in many ways, and you are a true professional, and it always gives me great pleasure to work with you.
Oh, it's always fun to be here. We've had a lot of great guests today. It's been a jam-packed show.
It has been a jam-packed Easter extravaganza. Easter.
Getting ready for we're going to host the family today.
We're going to host the family. The Greek Easter has collided with what we used to call in the family American Easter. Greek Easter and American Easter are the same day today.
How often does that happen?
It happens every 5 or 6 years. One goes off of the Jewish calendar, the Gregorian calendar. The two different calendars.
I never know.
But Greek Easter does not happen until Passover is over. Every single year.
Okay. So and now that Passover is
the Julian calendar and the I think that's how
I don't know anything about it.
But we have our traditions. I love to keep the traditions going. I kind of grab my family and say we must celebrate.
Kicking and screaming, most of them. I mean, I have the whole family today. We just have part of the.
We're going to have part of the family. I am not that religious, but I love the culture.
Yeah, of course.
I love the traditions.
You like to knock eggs?
I like to knock eggs.
There's a Greek tradition that I didn't know about till I came into the Greek family. Is explain it.
Explain. So
chingrisi, I guess.
Chingrisi is what it's called. The eggs are dyed red, a deep, dark red color, which represents the blood of Christ, who died and rose on the third day, of course, Easter. And they're hard-boiled, of course, and everybody at the table gets a red egg, usually done at the end of the meal, and we hold the egg in our hand. There's a round part to a hard-boiled an egg and a pointy. So we start with the pointy end, and the other person takes
them together.
You hit them together, and you say Christos Anesti, which means Christ is risen, and Alithos Anesti, the answer refrain means truly he has risen. And you see, whose egg is broken. Usually only one of them breaks. So then you flip sides. You do it on the other side. You say it again, Christos Anesti, Alithos Anesti. And if you have an egg that is remains unbroken, then you find the other people at the table who also have, until you are left with the champion, with the egg that is unbroken. And that person gets luck for the year. I recall a story my father told me as a young boy. He dyed a wooden egg.
Oh, very smart.
Red. He was like an engineer mind even as a young boy. And he, went around and broke everybody's eggs. And of course, he had a wooden egg. So
that's great.
Yeah. And it's fun for kids. It's fun for the adults.
That red dye gets everywhere.
Yeah, the red dye will be on
red dye on your hands. If you're wearing a dress, on your dress, on the tablecloth.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. But I remember my mother's last Easter, where she was with us in 2018, we were hosting, and even though she was 93 years old, when her egg was the egg that won, she threw her arms up into the air and whoa, she just won the lottery.
We have that picture somewhere.
I'm picturing that picture. So, Kathy, you've been wonderful and being part of the Greek traditions.
And I usually just celebrate one Easter. I'm not super religious, but I like to celebrate. But 2 Easters is a little much for me, so I'll usually celebrate Greek Easter with you.
And this year we're going to have both on the same day.
Yeah, so works out.
We're doing a meal. Of course, who likes lamb? Hardly anybody. I'm like, can we make some Greek lamb? Well, 2 people out of 8 of us will eat lamb.
You're still making lamb,
but I'm going to make lamb anyway today, and we're going to have a Greek chicken dish.
Greek chicken, lamb, a bunch of Greek sides.
Greek salads. We've got to have spanakopita. My homage to the. My sister-in-law is not Greek, and Kathy is not Greek, but I'm doing that. I ordered one of those lamb cakes, that you see that are covered in usually coconut or powdered sugar or buttercream. I wanted to do something American Easter-like.
I've never had a lamb cake, so I'm looking forward to the lamb cake.
I got one many, many years ago when I hosted Easter from a neighborhood bakery, and I think they must have made them about a week in advance because when I cut into it, I was so excited. I got the whole family excited, and it was like eating sawdust. Yeah. It was really dry. But
they look cute. They're very cute.
They're very cute. We're going to cut into that, and so it's bringing the family together. I'm the eldest of 4 in my family, siblings, and I love to keep the traditions alive. I think it's important. We don't have kids, so I do have a couple of nephews who are mainly disinterested, but hopefully they will find some joy in it, and as they mature and get older, they hopefully will want to carry these traditions on, in their own way.
It's really just good to be together, and it's good to celebrate. We have to find a lot of warm, cozy, fuzzy family things to do because there's so many dark things on the horizon. So, we try to focus on the positive, which we've tried to do today. We had a lot of fun creators of art and of music. Shimmy Braun from London. It's just great to talk to people who are out there doing their thing.
That was our goal today on Easter, to kind of not handle the heavy stuff, although it always comes in because it's with us, but to really focus on all the great art and the great people that are in our community that are trying to bring us joy and bring us culture and bring us things that make us happy. So on that note, I do want to thank all of our guests today. Second City's Kat McDonnell and Second City alum Claudia Martinez, Charlie Ockerland from Logan Square Arts Foundation, Shimmy Braun from Fegala, he's playwright and mortgage broker, and Kim Swinton and Linda Martin from Vintage Blonde Chicago. I want to thank Lady B at the board, who did a fabulous job for us. Henry Edwards helped out as well. Thank you, Henry. Last but not least, I want to thank my lovely wife, talented co-host, Kathy Voltmer. Always a pleasure to be with you.
I'm sure Scott's listening too. So, Scott, thanks for letting me sit in.
Thank you, Scott, for letting me sit in your chair. And Scott will be back next week. Happy Easter, everybody. And in the meantime, stay proud.